Welcome to the T Row Show. This is the T Row Show number three. It was the second half, number three. And we're going to cover a couple of topics. This may run over an hour. So just to warn you, we're going to be talking about the Senate, the U.S. Senate, and then how that, a little bit of history about that, and how that was created or why it was created. And then we're going to talk about some other things in dealing with freedom through education and that type of progress as far as that the Genoa Institute is concerned. So we're going to talk a little bit about Israel and how it was formed. I Sarah just came up. I guess she was just going through some videos and noticed this one video of how is the state of Israel was created. I mean, it is in the news a lot, so might as well at least talk about that. It was created about 50 years before it was created. So it's a lot of interesting stuff that we're going to get into. So here we go. All right, it came to us today, or was I guess this has been the focus around the country. Not that that basically we don't want to talk about abortion or children or trafficking or anything like that. What you want to talk about is two men, um, uh, one sodomizing the other on the Senate committee hearing building. I guess that's the more important thing that everybody wants to talk about because the funny thing is it really isn't shocking. It's not shocking at all, especially now. It's just really, nobody really, oh, wow, somebody did that on the Senate floor, blah, blah, blah. So no one seems to care. So let's go a little bit about the Senate and where that affects you. Okay, here's your problem. The Senate used to be called the Senate of the United States. When the Federal Reserve Act was written by a bunch of Rothschild devil worshippers. When it was written, it changed the name of it. They said, "Well, we can't do this Federal Reserve Act if we're going to keep the name Senate of the United States as it is in the Constitution because it doesn't call for Federal Reserve notes." Okay, and it calls for gold. So what they were about to do was called treason. So since the Federal Reserve Act was treason, what they did was is that they had to change the name. So they had to bankrupt the United States, 1933, in order to stay out of the treason that they were getting ready to just take it over. So that's exactly what they did. And they did it with the money system. They kept siphoning all the gold out of the system. The bankers were handing paper over as a loan, and then they were demanding gold in return. That's the fastest way to steal if you want to steal something. Okay, to hand them paper, they hand you gold, and then keep asking for more gold for your debts. So they moved to the people, 1933. It went bankrupt, and they started using the people as a collateral for the loans. And that's how you steal and traffic a people. They trafficked, I don't know how many, 200 million at the time, maybe 150 million, I don't know, from the United States to the US. So what you're seeing today is a stolen US, United States. So the bankers are running the whole thing. That's how they got it. They used a couple things that were planted in them as in 1848. This was after 1834, where the Rothschilds had bought Israel. They bought the capital, okay, Jerusalem, the city of Jerusalem. He bought that. And Rothschild owns it. He has the title to it. He did that in 1834, and the reason why he did that, or how he did it, was based on a war. He was bought it with um, war bonds. I don't want to go into much detail. It goes into back into a whole big mess that they let it out that one side was winning. Everybody joined in and bought those war bonds, and then the truth was the other side was actually winning, and so they bought back all the bonds, and now they were able to borrow credit from the Bank of England to buy the city of Jerusalem. It's basically it. How the theft happened. Then in 1848, they had to say, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to bring America in because those guys are very prosperous over there and they work very well. And so in around 1847, 1848, they had the the Oregon Treaty. And what was going on is that all the Canadians and the Americans were killing each other. This was going on for like 6 months. So the Queen of England wanted to come over. I believe it was the Queen at the time, wanted to come over and settle the issue. So that's where the dividing line came in between the United States and uh, Canada. It was right there based on that spot. And that's really the only part of this meets and bounds that were directly with the U.S. and Canada. But did the United States have claim to it? That was the whole thing. But anyway, so what happened in the Senate is that they gave emergency powers to the president. And when they did that, they basically gave the office of the president of the United States full power of attorney for everybody. Because you got to remember, the United States is not set up as a republic. They call it a republic, but so did Rome, the Roman Republic. And the Senate uh, uh, divvied up all the districts, voting districts, and everything else. And they said, okay, this is what we're going to do. These districts, the people that live in these districts, we as senators are going to have power of attorney for all of them to go and speak on their behalf to Caesar. Okay, because Caesar had all of the minerals and all of everything. At least that seat did. So that's exactly what happened in 1848. They gave them emergency powers, and therefore gave the president, through executive order and treaty, the ability to speak for everybody. And guess what? It was supposed to cancel after 6 months, but they keep renewing it. They've always renewed it, where the emergency powers are always with the president. And that's how they created a dictatorship in the country. Well, once they got rid of all of the assets of the country, they all were handed over to the Rothschilds and Rockefellers and all those guys. They went ahead and demolished it, the United States, and then turned the Senate of the United States into U.S. Senate. Congress of the United States came back as U.S. Congress. So what they did was they used the whole satanic thing, where everything is always opposite of the other, good and evil, the tree of good and evil. Where if you're right on the one side and you're wrong on the other, that's what they did with the Constitution. It's a mirror image of each other. And instead of the U.S. president, it was president of the United States back then. Okay, so when they did that, they completely turned it over. Those men that created the Federal Reserve were all satanic. Okay, and sodomy is, they're basically, I don't know, obsessed with it. That's all you heard about during Obama's regime, they call it. And so that right there, if they're having, they're doing their whole gay porn thing, in the House Senate a committee thing, all they're telling you is, hey guys, we've got this whole place locked down. This belongs to us, is what they're telling you. That was a notice. And it wasn't accidentally leaked. And they did say that the man who did it is now not working there anymore. He said the video obtained by the Daily Caller shows a congressional staffer engaged in anal sex with another man in a Senate hearing room in the Hart Senate office building. The staffer has been identified by many on the Hill and was fired after the video went viral. The video shows the staffer naked on all fours, where the senators often sit and ask questions during hearings. The U.S. Capitol Police confirmed that they were aware of the amateur pornographic video. Maryland Senator Ben Cardin's office confirmed that the staffer no longer works in the U.S. Senate. That tells you right there, that was a notice. Nothing ever happens like that. It's not to embarrass them. That was a notice to everyone that Sodom is in charge. And I mean the actual country that was destroyed, Sodom and Gomorrah. They took you over, and that's it. You don't have what you think you have. What you thought you have ended back in 1933. 1947, the lawyers come in. They start the whole the agreement with the United Nations, where every lawyer represents the United Nations, and an agency or a part of it. And it's true. They came in, and then what did they do? They automatically, 1947, took you away from your grand jury. So now, before you were able, before that time, before the lawyers took over, you were able to go in, and I've gone through this in the other T-Row shows. You were able to come in and just walk right into a grand jury at any time. I have evidence of a crime. They sit you down, put your Bible in front of you, you take your affirmation, and you present your evidence. Now, a lawyer decides whether evidence is going to come forward or not. That's called hijacking a branch of a government, because the grand jury in their system is a branch of government. So it goes on and on and on and on like that. Okay. You notice what does he do? Instead, now, how do I know this was a notice? Well, folks, he should have been arrested. Both of them should have been arrested. But they're not. Oh, they don't work here anymore. Oh, okay, you fired them. That was it? That's all you did? That was notice. What that means is that you're no longer considered U.S. citizens. Because why? Because there's no constitution in the world that says U.S. citizen in it. That's number one. Number two, there's no citizen of the United States, because that Constitution stopped being in play in 1933. They don't use it anymore. They use the opposite of it. Okay? So what that means is that was noticed that everyone here is just like a California resident can be a Californian. You, by Sodom, you would be a sodomite. Notice why that's a legal position. That's a legal status. And that's what they're turning you into, is a legal status of sodomites. So the word sodomite is not a slander word. It just means that's a legal status. People from sodomite, then you have Gomorrahites, I believe, the Gomorrahites, and then you have sodomites. That's what the people were called. Okay, so that's what happened when that was found. How was this thing obtained by the Daily Caller? Seriously? How'd the Daily Caller get it? Unless it was planned. You guys do realize that there are guards everywhere. in there. Military guards, all that. This doesn't just happen and then get leaked. That's a notice. And instead of being arrested for lewd and lascivious activity, they just, oh, they're fired. It's not what they're doing, it's what they're not doing. That tells you everything. Remember that. It's not what they do, it's what they don't do. Oh, well, that's no big deal. You know, he can just do whatever he wants. Now, if it was a woman and a man, they would have been arrested. Everybody knows that. That's how you know that that's a public notice. Why did it end up into a newspaper? Oh, gee, because somebody wanted to give public notice of it. Why not put it on a website? Why not put it on Facebook? No, they wanted to put it on a newspaper. So you have to realize that this is how things are done. So what I would suggest is that people, if they don't want to be sodomites, like their legal description is sodomites, I would, might want to put a notice out. I'm not a part of this. I don't want to be any part of this, because now people will usually call me crazy until it actually happens, and then they go, "Oh, okay." The rainbow flag is a country, folks. Y'all get that? It represents a country. You're going to find out what that country's called soon, but they haven't done it yet. How do I know that? Because all the governments around the world are flying that flag. They fly the rainbow flag. The flag, by law, represents the law of a country. It represents a jurisdiction. That's what happens. Our flag represents what we've adopted, which is the gospel of Yeshua, Jesus the Christ. That's the gospel, and that's a very, very short gospel. Okay, so you have to realize that that's what's going on. Your Senate is no longer a U.S. Senate. That's in name only. That's a Sodom Senate. And that's a Senate that completely and utterly rejects our Father in heaven, rejects Yeshua, Jesus the Christ, rejects any form of Christianity, any form of anything. They are into devil worship big time. I mean, how many people use their positions in office to put a Baphomet statue on of the property of a capital? Why would they do that? Why would they recognize it for what it? Why don't they recognize it for what it is? It's what they don't do, folks, not what they are doing. They're not trying to stop it. They're not the people are being attacked left and right. Big time attacked. Every single day, no matter what's going on. Especially if you're a white man. White man. White man is nothing but, dog crap on people's shoe anymore. So somebody set it up. Somebody came around and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to finally give them notice and see if the people are smart enough to figure out that that was a notice. And this is who they legally are. They're changing your status. Okay. Now I've got another thing. The U.S. Senate and all that. That particular that is not going to be related to what we're about to show you. Okay, I wanted to go by this first. I was seeing, in fact, listen to this. This was by a WND. It was, in fact, the Boston Herald quoted council member Tanya Fernandez Anderson as saying such divided events are commendable. It says your email should not offend anyone, and there's absolutely no confusion, she claimed. Just like there are groups that meet based on shared interest or cultural backgrounds, it's completely natural for elected officials of color to gather for a holiday celebration. So what did they do? Mayor Michelle Wu, I cordially invite you and a guest to the Electeds of Color holiday party on Wednesday, December 13th at 5:30 p.m. at the Parkman House, 33 Beacon Street. It was signed by DeSantos. So what happened was that was no whites allowed. She said she accidentally sent it to a bunch of people. No white people allowed. But here's the thing. Watch what people, not what they do, but what they don't do. Because that came out and said, oh, there's only white people are not allowed. Do you see any white people suing? Suing anybody that says, oh, no, this is only for black people. Uh-huh. Do you see any of them suing for their rights? No. That tells you everything. Just want to let you know. That tells you everything. What I'm saying is you're wasting your time trying to get back at people. What really the thing that I don't like personally is WND tries to put these out to try to get me angry, to create more divide. That's all it's for. It's a political manipulation to try to say, oh, they don't want white people there. So I guess the white people are going to get mad. Hey, we got rights to do this, blah, blah, blah. They don't. It doesn't matter. If nobody's suing, nobody seems to care. It's just the fact that the mainstream media tries that. That's starting to get very irritating. That's called agitation. When you're agitating people, it's an international crime. Okay? Because you're agitating them to violence. And they're saying, well, you're going to violence because you don't like black people, which is absolutely not true. What you're saying is that you're using your power of the press and free speech to agitate white people to violence. Just agitate them. It's not what they're talking about, it's the agitation. It's not even the subject matter. It's the fact that it's agitation. And they put it out there on purpose. You don't see any white folks suing. You don't see anything like that at all. Hey, I'm going to sue Mayor so and so because they're racist. Obviously, they don't care about their holiday party. Oh, gee, you mean I can't go and worship a Christmas tree, a phallic symbol, and a you know around, what do they call that? Oh, lady parts on the front door. Is that what it is? You're gonna get me upset because I don't worship Santa Claus? Come on, it gives a crap. If you guys want to worship idols, go worship idols. You'll pay for it in the end. That's all right. But as long as I know not to go there, you don't really have much to worry about as far as worshiping idols is concerned. Okay, so That's the whole thing there, and that's what starts agitating. So I'm looking at this, and I'm saying, okay, the mainstream media, you're just agitating people to violence. That's the same as domestic terrorism and international terrorism, because your newspapers go across the world. It's a whole worldwide network. Agitating to violence was what Rumsfeld did back in George Bush's time. Okay, little bushy over there, and he used to do that and agitate people so that they would go to violence. He did that in Palestine. Did it all the time. At who? Oh, I'm sorry. Rothschild's blessing. Because who owns Jerusalem? The Rothschilds do. He allowed that to go on in his city. It was Rothschild that did all that. He's the one that broke up Israel. So everybody's going after Israelis, but he's the one that did it. So go after a Rothschild if you're going to sit there and protest. Geniuses. Figure out what you're doing. Don't go by ignorance. Go after the people that are doing it, if that's what you want to do. I'm not giving you an order to go after people. What I'm saying is that they're the responsible party of this whole deal that I have lived with my whole entire life. Every day when I would wake up in the morning, to go in my teenage years, my younger years, teenage years, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Oh, Israel is attacking Palestine. Palestine's attacking Israel. Gee, that's a surprise. They're over there fighting and killing each other again. And you want me to be just as concerned as I was when I was in the 70s? That fight never ends. I'm not on either side. That's the thing. There's what they call a neutral. When you have a country that's neutral to those things, we do nothing to violate that neutrality. That's the way it works. So I got a video with something I thought was very interesting. And this is over on the 153news.net. I don't believe this video is copywritten in any way. And it's about 11 minutes long. So I want you to see this so you can see a little bit of a history as to what's going on. Let me share screens. And here we go.
A more direct attack on Christianity came from Oxford University Press in England in 1908 when it published a false and intentionally misleading Bible called the Scofield Reference Bible. Its mission was to inject into the Christian text reinterpretations that made the future state of Israel the way to God.
This book was so important that Oxford University Press opened its first branch in the United States to publish it. They had never published an American book before. They had not published Whittier's books, his poetry. They had not published Longfellow. They had not published any of our great American authors, but they published this.
The Oxford University Press published the Scofield book. They promoted it into key American seminaries and Bible schools where the beliefs of future generations of pastors could be molded to cloud the peacemaking traditions of Christianity and benefit the state of Israel. Most pastors and teachers were unaware of any danger, since there was no state of Israel at the time. Most of them did not even know the Jewish state was being planned. Few guessed that the Scofield book would be used by secular powers to bend Christians into political and financial servitude to the Jewish state, present-day Israel. American Christianity became increasingly Zionized after 1948 when the State of Israel appeared as a result of the United Nations edict. Oxford University Press was strongly Zionist influenced, and it provided a huge financial and promotional boost when it opened a publishing branch in New York City. This for the purpose of publishing the Christian Zionist Manual in 1908, called the Scofield Reference Bible. This book was to be a foundational document upon which Christian Zionism, by a host of other names including evangelicalism, would begin its methodical growth by deception. The founders of World Zionism, especially Chaim Weizmann, successor to Theodor Herzl, had much to do with drawing the United States into World War I. A mere handful of dominant American Zionists were able to influence President Wilson, possibly by blackmail, to join the war in Europe over his advisors' objections. America lost over 100,000 men who were entirely innocent of any involvement in European politics, and out of all this, the World Zionist movement gained a piece of land called Palestine. The land of the Philistine was England's payoff to World Zionism for causing America to enter World War I on the side of Great Britain, which was losing the war to Germany. By 1917, the World Zionist movement was in high gear toward occupying Arab Palestine after the Balfour Declaration gave them a claim, without title, to any land occupied by the Palestinians. The Scofield Reference Bible was copyrighted in 1909. It is an Old and New Testament with most of the notes in the original text added in the Old Testament. Later, many notes were added to the New Testament as the Scofield Reference Bible was re-edited several times, with the most radical change being made in 1967.
The book has been updated over and over again, each time by Oxford University Press, always having Mr. Scofield's name on the front of it. In fact, he's listed as the editor in the most recent edition, even though he's been dead for about 40 years.
The cover shows the editor, Cyrus I. Scofield, with 7 other men on the editorial board. One of these was Reverend James M. Gray, president of the Moody Bible Institute, one of the most influential organizations in evangelical circles of the day. There were also 2 other seminary leaders on the editorial board. Those lending their names were predominantly heads of seminaries and Christian colleges.
What happened is the distribution took place through these seminaries. And then when young pastors were graduated from these schools and they went back out and took a church and started to teach from the pulpit, they had one of these in their hands. This is what was given to them. And I suppose that they were probably given to the seminaries. It was likely that the Oxford Press was very generous in making sure that all these people had these.
What exactly is the Scofield Reference Bible? Let us look critically at just one page of the book that has become the guide for secularist Jews in Israel and evangelical Christians in America to explain why they think present-day Israel has the right to all of the land in the Middle East, beginning with Palestine. Genesis 12:3 is part of the Torah and is quoted in the Quran. These 3 verses are standard in the King James translation and very similar in other Bibles. Let me paraphrase it as you read the Old English. The Lord told Abram to leave his home and family and go into a land that God would show him. God promised to then make of Abram a great nation, bless him, and make his name great, protect him by blessing his friends and cursing his enemies. And from Abram's seed all the nations of the earth would be blessed. Now for the part that is important to traditional Christians. I quote, "In these shall all the families of the earth be blessed." Christianity has for 2,000 years taken this to be the first notice from God of the coming Savior of mankind. Genesis 12:3 is the earliest covenant that God made to Abram, and it is the one used by Israelis and Christian Zionists to justify the idea that the entire Middle East should be Israeli property. I quote, "Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, into a land that I will show thee." Zionists of all races interpret the phrase, "into a land that I will show thee," as a perpetual land grant to present-day Israel. Now we will examine the most effective corrupter of Scripture in history, one Cyrus I. Scofield, a 19th century American. Note on page 19 that the footnotes dwarf the text. Note also that the italicized insertions in between the verses that are not part of the Bible. In the 1967 version of the Scofield Reference Bible, there are more footnotes than in the original 1909 version, and since the death of Scofield in 1921, the footnotes have grown to dwarf the text in these very important pages. Let's look again at the vital footnote 2 found in the Scofield Reference Bible in 1967 on page 19. The footnote reads, God made an unconditional promise of blessing through Abram's seed to the nation of Israel to inherit a specific territory forever. But the passage doesn't say anything like this. God orders Abram to go to a land that God will show him, using the first person familiar thee, meaning Abram and no one but Abram. The passage does not say that God is giving any piece of land to anybody forever. It doesn't say anything about Israel.
Now, how complicated is it? Leave your land, go where I tell you to go, and I will protect you. How complicated is that? How many footnotes does it take to understand what God was saying to Abraham? I mean, anybody who reads that should be able to figure that out, that's what the message is. But Mr. Scofield wrote all of this to explain it.
In fact, if we accept biblical history, we know that Abram had no children when this happened, and not for quite a while. So there was no person or nation named Israel when this promise was made. There was no state or nation named Israel. The man Israel did not even exist in Abram's imagination when God spoke to him. How then could Scofield or the Oxford University Press say that God was promising the land to the present-day state of Israel forever?
Where did the state of Israel get in this? When Abraham was spoken to by God, Israel, the man known as Israel, hadn't been born yet. He was 2 generations in the future. And he was not a state. He was a person that eventually had a tribe. And then after him, 3,000 years later, along comes a bunch of Europeans who name their state after him. But this says that God gave that land to the nation of Israel forever. Imagine 70 million people who are taught this every day.
The Oxford University Press did not stop there. Note 3 on page 19 reads, There is a promise of blessing upon the individuals and nations who bless Abram's descendants, and a curse lay upon those who persecute the Jew. The word Jew is used in the footnotes in describing an occurrence 2,000 to 3,000 years before the word Jew existed. In fact, Jew is taken from the name Judah, who was, it is told, one of the 12 grandsons of Abraham, Abram of Genesis 12. Neither Judah nor Jew existed, and this footnote is a false concoction. Note 3 continues, God's promised Abram and his seed certainly did not terminate at Sinai with the giving of the law. The New Testament and Old Testament are full of post-Sinai promises concerning Israel and the land which is to be Israel's everlasting possession. Listeners should be asking, why is Oxford University Press putting words in the mouths of the readers of this Bible? To make them think their God promises blessings and curses on people today based on how they think about or act toward present-day Jews and present-day Israel. What about all the other people in the world? Let's read further in the footnotes to Genesis 12:3. Promise to the Gentiles, I will bless them that bless thee. Those who honor Abram will be blessed, and curse them that curse thee. This was a warning literally fulfilled in the history of Israel's persecution. It has invariably fared ill with the people who have persecuted the Jew, and well with those who have protected him. And here is the punchline. For a nation to commit the sin of anti-Semitism brings inevitable judgment. The future will still more remarkably prove this principle. Isn't that convenient?
So now you have anti-Semitism is created in Abraham's time. The footnote to Abraham's words create and the word anti-Semitism. Christian Zionism believes that our nation will be judged if we are not sufficiently kind as a nation to the state of Israel. They have made sin a sort of a national corporate event rather than an individual thing. Of course, there is no such thing as national sin. Nations don't sin, we do. Individuals do, men do. But this has created a national sin so that Christian Zionists like John Hagee believe that God will rain fire down on our country, will somehow punish our entire nation for being insufficiently kind.
So there you go. Okay. So Sarah?
Yeah, Did you did you hear that part where he was saying, um, how hard is it to believe, or how hard is it to understand this one sentence? And then he wrote like a whole novel, the Scofield guy. That was funny.
Yep.
But this whole section here that they're wording, where in Genesis 12, where Yahweh promises Abraham, or he makes a covenant with him about promised land. That promised land was actually fulfilled when he passed away. And Jesus talked about it in the parable of Lazarus. It's paradise, actually. It's called the Abraham's bosom. So Abraham's descendants were promised to make it to this land of milk and honey, paradise. And it's those who stayed in Yahweh's within his covenant, those who obeyed Yahweh. But those that are still on this earth, when Jesus came, he completely fulfilled that covenant regarding the physical land. For those that are still wandering on the earth and alive, Jesus came, he fulfilled that old covenant with Yahweh. The temple cracked in half, that old covenant was fulfilled, and Jesus made a new covenant, meaning that the land now and all that inheritance goes to Jesus. And through Jesus, everything that was promised to Abraham is now within Jesus. He became that promised land, and Jesus clearly explained that to everybody, that this place is not here. It is not on this earth. And if you want to go here, you have to go past this world and all the things that are within the world. He explained this in many different ways, and the Pharisees, that the ones who that put him on the cross and rejected him as the Messiah, are those ones today that are rejecting even what God says, what Yahweh says as his covenant with his people. They're rejecting Jesus. They reject Yahweh. These are the people that are right now called the Jews or the Zionists. They're not actual. They're not actually the original people that had a covenant with Yahweh. They were actually called the Hebrews, not Jews. This whole Jew and Zionist thing is completely new.
Right. Moses wasn't Jewish. He was Hebrew. That's well known. So does everybody get that? In other words, there are no chosen people. When it cracked in half, it opened it up to everyone. There are no longer any chosen people. So when you see how crazy that sounds, but it's true, the whole thing about Israel being supported and all this other stuff, I'm not saying I'm anti-Israel. I'm not saying I'm anti this or that. I don't care, because the whole thing is a based lie. That's why I don't care. The covenant of Abraham went to Yeshua, Jesus. He fulfilled all of it, the whole Old Testament. All of it was fulfilled and created a brand new covenant. Brand new. And that is where the truth is. The whole Jewish people are chosen, that was gone 2,000 years ago. The Christians don't even know that. This is a bunch of people that hijacked an old covenant, tried to bring it to today, and now are trying to take over the whole earth. Because didn't it say all the land will go to Abraham?
Yeah, but when you read the context of it, it sounds like it's referring to his seed. So like he's going to birth all the people that are going to hold tight to Yahweh's commands, pass on the law, for the record, and through him, well, once those people die, they're going to be in paradise, which is Abraham's bosom. So they have like a resting place instead of torment, instead of hell, until the Messiah comes and um, fulfills that all of the old covenant and creates the new.
Which has already been done. That's already been done, guys. 2,000 years ago, it was done. So you can't make something real that's not real. So you can't say, "Oh, well, we deny Yeshua as the Messiah, so therefore we fall under the old covenant." You can't do that. Your denial does not make you right. When it also says in the future, the Hebrew people will return, but only under the new covenant. The old covenant's done, gone, over, fulfilled, all went to Yeshua. He holds everything. He has all the power in heaven and all the power on earth, every bit of it, and under the earth. The man manages hell. He manages hell. So you dummies out there, they're trying to sell your soul so you can get crap here, like free stuff, and then act like a fool on television and everything, praising whoever you want to praise there. I mean, you need to go to the man who runs hell. All right. So all he does right now, all the devil does is run the wicked. That's what he does. He controls the wicked on earth until you decide you want to go the right way. So, like I said, I think I was told or a comment was made. Well, when you guys go to religion, okay, we're not going to religion. The Bible has no religion in it. Religion is something that we just showed you, which is somebody's concocted idea and then has you try to live by it. As if you do that, you will go to heaven. So if you go to the gates and say, well, I supported Israel, and they're going to go, so what? It didn't, there was no command to support Israel. Everybody get that. You have to understand what's going on. You're right. It is a cult. It's a cult point of view. 70 million people every week are learning that cult doctrine. And believe that they're doing right. Because what you're saying is this: if it were all true, the state of Israel would be protected, not by man, but by the Father himself. And are you saying that the Father is unable to do what he promised? Protect anything? He's unable to do that. He needs you. Is that what's going on? When Jerusalem is owned by the Rothschilds, they own the city. So, and what are the Rothschilds? Devil worshippers. So what are you doing? You're helping a man who's a devil worshiper that owns Jerusalem make money off of biblical history. Like I said, I got issues with not issues, but I've got I'm not going to support the Arabs either. They're called Arabs over there because Arabs love to do things that are a little bit messed up too. All right, I'm not saying they all do this, but this happened about a few weeks ago in France. A 13-year-old girl was allegedly sexually assaulted by a French national of migrant descent. They call it of migrant descent. There's no such thing as a migrant descent. But anyway, her father filed a complaint to the police. The man's sister took revenge against the victim by getting together a group of friends and beating her up in a lynching. The 13-year-old can be heard on camera pleading, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I will even give you money if you want." The video was filmed and shared on French social media sites, turning the girl into a subject of bullying. The victim's father says he has not been able to sleep since he saw the video and in which he saw his daughter being beaten. How is any of this acceptable? You're right. What? How is that acceptable? I don't understand, guys. How is this okay? For anybody, these are kids. So when I see this, I'm going to show it to you here in a minute. I'm opening up the video. I got it out of Telegram, so I'm opening up the video. And you're going to get there. So if you have children in the room, you might want to ask them to go ahead and get into another room. You got about a couple of seconds here. And you're about to see this. So the video is about 50 seconds long. And I'm sitting here watching this and I'm going, oh, okay. And I don't think they're beating the girl because she said something. I think they're beating the girl because she's white or French, they call them. But this is relentless. Let me get this moved over here. There we go. And I'll move this down below. And here we go.
Tu m'assumes ça. T'assumes pas, ça pue. Vas-y, ça y est. Reparle encore, mon frère. Reparle encore, mon frère. D'accord. Je suis désolée, je suis désolée. Pas encore. Avant, pas encore. Je suis désolée, je suis désolée. Je suis désolée. Ta gueule, pas de civilisation. Je te donne de l'argent, même. Pas les couilles. La mec, tu rentres chez toi. Je suis désolée. 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 Aïe, s'il vous plaît, arrêtez. Je vous donne de l'argent, mon couille. Raconte pas la vie. Aïe, je suis désolée. Je vous jure, je suis désolée. Je vous donne de l'argent, même si vous voulez. Aïe. Je suis désolée. Reprends encore mon frère. Sur ta vie. Oui, je suis désolée. Je nique ta mère.
There you go. That's what they call mafia tactics. It's revenge. They learned that in a very young age. Okay. So I'm tired of this thing where one group of people is always wrong and other groups of people are always right. That's not going to work. That's not the way you run things. This is coming from Rothschild and this same group of people that are running under false pretenses of biblical prophecy. They're hijacking blessings. They're hijacking narratives, all to get what they want, so that they can put their NWO together and run the whole world. Try to, at least. So the best thing to do is to gee, I think we need to go go neutral. So I'm neutral. I'm going to run this past more RAIN citizens and see if they want to go neutral in this deal, because it has no basis in biblical truth whatsoever. None whatsoever. All right. What I'm going to talk to you about is we're going to leave some links down below on the video, this video here. Asking you, we've got a couple of, we have the Genoa Institute introduction group, and we're also calling it now a book club where you share books. We got to get everybody to start reading again, okay? And whether it's PDF or whatever it is, if you're not reading, then we need to get you to start reading again, because you're missing out on a lot of things that are written down and recorded. We have tons of books at our we can access and share those on that group, the Telegram group. There are some other book club, or not book clubs, but people who share books on there. And we wanted to start one also because I think it's a good idea to help other people, you know, learn how to do silly things like change out of a ceiling fan, stuff like that. Just fix a toilet, you know, instead of paying 150 for just a visit and over 300 for a fixing something, you can do it yourself. That's why Home Depot is there, guys. So it's a lot like that. And there's other books. Oh, what kind of other books have you seen, Sarah?
Oh, there's a lot of homesteading, off-grid mechanics, electrical, all kinds of gardening and plant identifications, school books for kids, everything.
Cool. All right. And if you guys want a private membership association, we're starting up some business strategy classes or consults. If you'd like to do that and don't want to let people know what your strategy is, you can schedule an appointment, and we'll go over a strategy for your business and how to structure it. And if you want to get one, a PMA, they're $6.99, the cheapest in the world, guys. And we have classes to teach you how to run it and all that kind of thing. We also have trusts. So that would be at the Genoa Institute. But we're starting the book club. I think a lot of that education is extremely important. People are you're losing your history because you don't know how to do things. They don't teach you this in school. This is a perfect Telegram group for guys just getting out of college, women just getting out of college, because they still didn't teach you anything about how the world works or how to do things. All you are told is, oh, we'll call this guy, he'll come and do it, and then you hand him credits. And that's it, when you could have done it yourself. We're do-it-yourself folks. So you do it yourself, you save a lot of money. I think I don't want to go there. All right. So business strategy classes or consults, Freedom Through Education. We have a monthly membership there. That entails a monthly class. We just had one on Friday night, and I haven't had any bad reviews on it. That's a monthly membership of $20 per month. And we also do a lot of research and do some projects with energy, especially energy, to try to find how to get this stuff to operate over Unity. And, you know, people claim it, but it's not really true. So we're doing a lot of the research and everything else. And when we find something that works, we share it with everybody on that group. And that's a thank you for supporting us, you know, going through this and finding things that they just don't have time to do during the day. So there you go. All right. Do we have anything else? Sarah? Does anybody want to say anything? I'm going to go ahead and get this where you can mute yourselves or unmute themselves. There you go. Now you can unmute yourself. If you have anything to add, give you a minute or so to respond. If not, we're just going to have a bunch of dead space. So does anybody have anything that they want to add to something, discuss? Is there anything that we didn't explain correctly? Are you confused about anything?
Well, I'll just say that whatever the video said that you were playing said must be true because they, at least on my end, they scattered it really bad, and most of what Sarah was saying. So you guys must have
Really?
been hitting the. Hopefully the recording's not that like that, but on my end, man, it was bad.
Well, we'll give the link.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, Roger.
Sorry.
The link to video. We're also opening up another, other than YouTube. I think it's Odyssey. We're opening up over there a T-Row show video thing, if that's easier for you guys to share from there or whatever you want to do. So it's gonna be 3 different places. It'll be there, Odyssey, Rumble, and YouTube, as long as we can keep it on YouTube. So that'll be it. All right. Thank you for listening to the T-Row show. We do appreciate it. And we will see you next week.